she'll tell me where to start, and I trust my heart enough to follow through.
Hello, welcome to Community Currency. I'm Carol Brouillet, 2010, and with me is the author of 2012, The Awakening, Bill Douglas, and I'm very happy to have Bill on the show. I must admit, he wrote a novel, fiction book, and I just opened the cover and thought, well, I'll check out the first few pages. I really don't have time to read this, and I just was entranced by the book, and I devoured it in one setting. It was very impressive, and it mixes some scientific studies with fiction, and it's hard to actually gauge, what is true and what is imagined in the book. And I'm very happy to have Bill on the show to discuss some of the very interesting ideas that you bring out in the novel. So welcome, Bill, to the show.
So that's, of course, as you know, one of the rubs of the novel is, these mind-body technologies, which have spread all over the planet. Through my work with World Healing Day, I found out that, these meditative techniques from the East, these mind-body technologies are being practiced in every country of the world, corners of the world that you wouldn't even think of. And so anyway, that's the dramatic rub of the novel, as well as what will win out. Will it be this very intensely focused propagandistic way of looking at the world, or is it going to be this broad swath thinking that enables us to envision greater possibilities?
But also, you have it in the novel where the military technology is used to identify these enlightened thinkers who have these powerful brainwaves, and that they create a field, and it's contagious. They can actually help raise the consciousness of the people around them. And I think you mentioned, I know I've talked to people who've talked about, if you have a lot of people meditating in a city, it reduces the crime rates, and that this is, I think because of the dire circumstances we're in, we can't have like one Christ or one Buddha. We need a lot of them, and this points to that sort of contagious aspect of higher levels of consciousness.
Yes, and that was actually based on real research as well. The TM Foundation has done a lot of great research over the decades, and I became intrigued with the Maharishi when I first started learning how to meditate about 30 years ago. They had a television station. I was living in Southern California at the time, and they had a television station that came on at about 11 o'clock at night. And the Maharishi was fascinating because he was actually a physicist before he started the TM Foundation, and so he spoke in very scientific terms about human consciousness and how it works. And later on, I learned that the TM Foundation had funded a large-scale study in Washington, D.C., and what they'd done is they had there was something called what you were referring to is something that they called the Maharishi Effect, and that was that if you could get a very small percentage of a household or a company or a community practicing these higher consciousness, well, what they called it was cohesive thought. If you could get a certain small percentage of any given population practicing these things, that it would have an impact on the whole population. And so they had a certain percentage that they, I think it was something like 2%, but I can't remember exactly. And if they could get that threshold, then what they found was that it had an impact of improving certain sociological aspects of that energy by about 25%. And so they went to the Washington, D.C. Police Department, and they had some universities involved, but they went to the police department because they wanted to work with their Bureau of Crime Statistics. And they said, we're going to bring in meditators in the high crime months of the summer, and we're going to lower your violent crime rates by 25%. And the chief
and they laughed.
Chief of police laughed, and he goes, "Yeah, you'll do that if we have a blizzard in August." And so they started bringing in these meditators, and they brought them in progressively. They didn't bring them in all at once.
Where did the meditators meditate?
It was in Washington. Oh, you mean in Washington D.C.? Where did they meditate?
In the park? or you don't know?
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but they brought him into the D.C. metro area, and what was amazing, beyond the fact that they actually did bring down the HRA crime rates, which is homicides, rapes, and assaults, the violent crime rates, by 25%, just as they had projected that they would. But what was fascinating was that because they had brought the meditators in incrementally, you could see that there was a correlation between the dropping of the crime rates and the influx of meditators that were coming into the city. Now, several years ago, I was invited to do a Tai Chi presentation at Folsom Prison, Folsom Maximum Security Prison in Northern California. And when I got there, I thought that I was going to be introducing them to Tai Chi and Qigong, but I found out that they had actually had a Qigong program there for about 2 years. And one of the inmates who had helped start it, Judith Trethway, was a Tai Chi teacher who had helped make it happen, but there was an inmate that had collaborated with her, and he kept statistics. And what he found was that not only was there a major reduction in the recidivism rate of people that practiced in the Qigong group, but that they found that there was an improvement in the behavior of the whole prison, which the Qigong meditative group was only a small percentage of. And so you start to see how these things influence the consciousness of a whole community. And the statement that you made about...
And I think people should know a little bit about you, because I think you've tackled such an amazing topic, and you have such an unusual history. Bill is one of the founders of World Healing Day, and he's also a Tai Chi master and has written books about that and also about children, but you never really intended to be a writer. It just happened. Do you want to just tell people a little bit more about how this novel happened?
Well, I've spent 30 years studying mind-body technologies, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, and meditation. As well as being a political and issue activist, for me it was it's all connected. The liberation of consciousness and the liberation of society and the planet. We're moving into an age where the crux that I make in the novel is that because we're rapidly approaching 10 billion people, we're going to be about 7 billion people pretty soon, and so we've really saturated the planet, and so the consciousness of humanity has really wrapped the planet, and so we're at a point now where changes in human consciousness have a very rapid spreading effect, and the Internet is kind of a model for that. It's like a thought or a new way of seeing the world can spread very rapidly through the world, at the speed of light. And so human consciousness, the point that Ravi makes, as you know in the novel, is that we're at a time now where we feel small and powerless in the world, but she said we're actually at a point in human history where each of us matters the most, because we are so profoundly impacting one another through our consciousness, as well as our actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, and I think it was Nelson Mandela who was saying that people are more afraid of recognizing how powerful they are than of actually sensing that they're powerless, that there's so much power that we have, and it's hard for people to it's easier for them to say, oh, I'm so insignificant, I'm just one person, and not take responsibility, not realize that they can have a very powerful effect.
Right, and Nelson Mandela so embodied that reality, and in fact, Nelson Mandela is something that comes up in the book, and also the South African Reconciliation Project, which is really a revolutionary concept, because what they did was they offered forgiveness to people from the apartheid regime after Nelson Mandela became president in exchange for truth. And so if those people that had committed crimes under apartheid came forward and actually told the truth, they were forgiven. And I think the point that I make in the novel is that this could be a formula for the whole planet, because what will enable the planet to really heal and move forward is not retribution and revenge, but it's truth. And so the act of forgiveness is a very powerful way to enable the truth to continue to come out.
But most people, do watch television, they do see movies, and they don't read books.
Well,
and I wonder, do you think, or have you been approached by anyone who is interested? My kids, they feel that movies based on books, usually the movies they wreck the book because they can never contain all the information, all the characters, and they'd love it if Lord of the Rings was, a 3-day marathon that they could, and didn't leave out any parts. But can you see 2012, The Awakening, being turned into a film?
Yeah, actually, I see it probably as a film called The Awakening, because 2012 in movie time we wouldn't be able to make that, but it could very easily be a movie called The Awakening. But Holmes Osborne, who's a really gifted actor, and everybody's seen him. He's one of those characters that you might not connect a name with the face, but you've seen his face in many different movies. He was in The Box and The Quiet American and Wind Talkers and all kinds of things. ER. The X-Files, and but anyway, when he was commissioned to do a Tom Hanks movie, and he was going to play a Tai Chi teacher, and so he contacted me and he said, could you give me some Tai Chi lessons? I'd like to, be able to make this an authentic role. It's a new movie coming out by Tom Hanks called Larry Crown, and so anyway, I gave him some Tai Chi lessons, and I said, I had just finished the final edit on the novel. It wasn't a novel yet; it was just a manuscript. And I said, Holmes, I just finished this novel. I said, would you mind giving it a read? And he probably kind of rolled his eyes, because he probably gets these. And but he took the stack of paper with him, and it just so happened that he was going to L.A. to shoot some of the scenes for this Tom Hanks movie, and so he didn't have anything to do, when you're sitting in the trailer.
Right.
And so he took it and he read it, and when I got home I had this message on my machine, and he said, "Oh my God," he said, I can't believe this novel." He goes, "This is the most amazing thing." He goes, "This is going to make an incredible movie." and so he's been kind of floating it around to a few people, and
that's great.
You never know what'll happen, but yeah, he was just overwhelmed with it. He said it was a really, really powerful message for the world, and I've heard that from many readers.
Great. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. That's hopeful, very hopeful.
But after they read the novel, they start talking about things that they never would have talked about.
Well, that's one of the great things about it. I've always felt that the hardcore political activists need to be spiritually enlightened, and then the really spiritual people need to be politically grounded. And I think that helps sort of balance both. And oh dear, we've run out of time. But thank you for listening to Community Currency, and I hope you pick up 2012 The Awakening by Bill Douglas.
On Amazon.com, ebook and also paperback.
Right, and I also think you should check out World Healing Day, which Bill helped start, and I think all of us should participate in, because the world surely needs more healing. And thank you so much for all of your work, Bill.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for yours.